Thanks so much to Ford and Joe, and buy radio. I know there's a lot of salespeople in the room, so I've worn my R.M. Williams in tribute to you all. Our next session is Unlimited Success, a look at the evolution of audio, and we're going to be joined by two Australian media icons. First up, one half of the Carl and Jackie O Show, Carl Sandilands, joins us on stage with industry peer and longtime friend Kate Langbroek to discuss the changing landscape of the Australian radio industry over the past 3 decades. I'm a huge fan. I'm much younger than both of them, so I grew up adoring them both, and it is a thrill to welcome to the stage the brilliant Kate Langbroek.
He's not much younger than us. Has anyone seen the movie Twilight? It's actually 680. It's my very great pleasure to welcome you all here today, and you are in for a huge treat because I am going to have a conversation. I didn't know that's what we were supposed to be talking about, 3 decades of radio. Oh, wow. But our next guest, or the man that I will be joining in conversation, is a titan of our industry. Well, industry, I hate people who talk about it as an industry. For those of us who do it the way I do it and the way he does it, the way Joel does it, it's an art. For you guys who crunch the numbers and do the back end, it's an industry. But let me read you this from Carl Sandilands, from this book that he allegedly wrote. I don't think he did. We'll find out. He said, "I'll be honest. To this day, I get jealous when I see people who are at the top of their game. It's not that I hate them, it's that I'm envious of them and annoyed that I can't be as good as them." Kyle Sandilands, you must be very jealous of yourself because you are an extraordinary broadcaster, an intriguing person, and a giant amongst all of us. Please welcome Kyle Sandilands. Take your time, Kyle. No, we've got nowhere else to be. That's what he does. He just saunters in.
I don't know what sort of fucking pageant music that is. But I thought that this can't be my intro.
That was your intro.
That's very sweet of you, Kate. Thank you.
Well,
I thought you were going to read the bit about when I wasn't sure if I was going to penetrate the transsexual that night back in 2000 in the Cross, because I thought it was a woman.
Right.
And when she then, after half of it, you know what I'm saying?
Which half?
You know, the...
Don't answer.
And yeah, I lied in the book and I sort of left it mystical. But the truth is...
Okay. All right, now what you've just seen...
How woke is that? You don't get more woke than that.
...is Sandilands in action, and this is what he does. Like he's always... You let off these incredible smoke bombs around you.
These are just life experiences. So it was very nice. I never really thought about what you said about what we do as art. When I think deeply about it, it probably is, but for me... I've just scammed my way in early. I lied to get my first job. I said I'd worked at radio. I was 16 years old and I was driving around the radio station car with no licence, handing out the drinks.
Yes, you were stalking the radio people that you loved.
I was stalking morning crew members. I was homeless at one stage at 15, so I was banging on their windows out the front of the radio station when they'd leave and they'd be like, "Oh, Jesus, who's that bratty-looking homeless kid?" But they gave me, like, listening to radio... At night time, I lived behind a service station when I was homeless in one of those sort of horse trailers that they rent out, and I could hear above the petrol bowsers at night this Hot 30 show, and I could hear it, and there was a few other homeless kids that you meet along the way, and we're all nestled in this like horse float, and every time the radio announcers would speak, I'd be like, shh, I wanted to hear them. I wanted to hear what the radio, because that was my way into the world. Like, yes, the songs were great.
Right.
Rick Astley was fabulous and what have you.
All right.
But that's where the love first started.
What was it about radio that you connected with so strongly in what was a dysfunctional, kind of difficult upbringing in many ways?
Well, it started earlier because my dad knew this guy, Wayne Pooh Roberts from Brisbane. The Pooh's on air, and I always thought, isn't that shit? What's so great about the Pooh? But he would pop around every now and then. My dad must have loosely known him, and Dad would come alive. Oh, Wayne Pooh's coming around, fucking vacuuming this and dust. And Dad did nothing, usually, except for drink largies and listen to Elvis Presley nonstop. And when this Wayne Pooh would come around once a year, he would dust clean everything. And I found that fascinating, that my dad used to listen to this guy on the radio and was so in awe of everything he did and said, and would laugh and slap his leg, thought he was hilarious. I was too young to get any of the jokes. So then my experience living in that horse float, that entertainment, like I could hear the songs, but just people having fun, and it was just a way of me to escape like a fantasy world and escape from the reality of my situation. And I was too little to really know. There was no kids helpline, there was no this, there was no that. You were just really on your own. This was the 80s, so it was an escape for me. And then my auntie found me once just wandering around the city in Brisbane, and she lived in Townsville, so she dragged me up to Townsville to live with her and her 3 boys around my age. And she knew I was interested in radio because I'd be critiquing the radio station in Townsville, 4TO, a little AM station, and I'd be like, oh, this wouldn't work in Brisbane radio, because I thought I'd become an expert just by listening. Mm-hmm. And then she cut out a little coupon in the paper. There was a promotional assistance job going, and didn't say you had to drive the car and be of age. And she cut it out and forced me to go in, and I was quite nervous. And when the lady that was interviewing me, she didn't seem that interested, and I probably didn't present that well, still to this day.
Hard to imagine.
Yes, it is, I know.
Yes.
And I knew, shit, she's not interested. I really want to work here, because it was radio, and it was like, like imagine working here. So I just started spinning shit and lied. And
you haven't stopped.
I haven't lied, haven't stopped. I'm waiting for someone to tap me and go, you are a fraud. You're not a TV idol judge.
Yeah,
You're not
right.
a radio announcer. I just really fell into it and just churned I've never really done anything else.
It's really interesting because in the time that I've known you as a broadcaster, the times have changed a lot.
Not for me.
No, not for you.
Not for me.
Not for you, which is just extraordinary that in the general sort of environment where people are scared to show the 360 degrees of their personality or what they believe,
Yep.
that you have retained and in fact I think strengthened the essence of saying what you think.
Well, it's not easy. You've got to there's a lot of negative that can come with that sometimes. But if
Really?
you're confident in yourself, you might have read a bit of it here and there. A lot of it's bullshit. But when I first came to Sydney, and I started dating this Lebanese chick, and I knew a Lebanese kid when I was growing up, and I used to love eating everything in bread, and I thought, they've got no knives and forks in Lebanon. Everything's wrapped in bread.
Right.
And then I got married to her and got that was the first real family community I was ever really involved in. And there was 400 of them at Uncle Fufu's place on a Saturday, cooking a dead sheep on an open fire in the backyard. But the love and the way they looked after each other, it was a whole new world to me. And I thought, I can't hear this on the radio. On the radio, it's only women winning contests between 25 and 35, and they've got to be so happy, and it's the greatest moment. And they were teaching them, if you're going to get on the air to win this CD, you've got to sound so excited like you won the lotto.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't a real reality of who was ringing up and who was listening. There was no ethnic voices on. Anyone that was gay in the industry, and I was quite surprised that 99% of the men on radio are homosexuals. Because on air, they're like, yeah, fucking g'day, mate. It's Triple M, non-stop rock out with your cock out. So our newsreader was gay, beautiful voice. Jeff Field was his name, beautiful delivery. And I said, why don't you say you're gay? Oh no, not in. It wouldn't be accepted. And I said, fuck everyone. if you're going to be on our show, which we were auditioning for different, I said, you can have the job, but you've got to be your natural true self. And then Jackie's her true self, crazy, wine-drinking, multiple husbands, Jackie. Fabulous woman, right?
Can I just interject with obviously very tolerant as well?
Yes, very tolerant.
Yes.
But I just wanted everyone on our show, including myself. I was some ex-homeless kid growing up in regional Queensland. Bit rough around the edges. You know, most of the chicks I had sex with didn't even own a pair of shoes up there. It was like, it's a different world.
Couldn't run away. Yeah.
But I just wanted everyone to be their authentic self, because when I first came to Sydney, and I've been in radio in Mackay and Townsville and Gladstone and Canberra and Darwin and Perth and everywhere,
Yes.
all these little bush stations, and I just loved it. And I'd end up like thinking, oh, maybe I'll get a job at a little bit bigger market and then a little bit bigger market. I never dreamt of coming to Sydney. I just was always my normal self, and a few people high up in Oz Stereo back then were like, you know, there's something about this guy. He doesn't care. He's still kind and generous and unselfish, and I love to share the airwaves. I think a lot of people used to compete for the laugh or the last word, and
You're very collaborative.
Yeah. I'm happy to share it.
Well, this is very interesting about you, because I think people like to think that you're kind of an unreconstructed male, right? What's that mean? Well, that you're kind of old-fashioned in your values or whatever.
I've got Yeezys on. That's not old. I know that's not popular this week. Believe me, my son and fiance are Jewish, and she's like, get those fucking shoes off. And I was like, listen, I really like the shoes.
And yet they're going to be collector's items
they
now.
Are. That's
they're not making any more
50 grand anyone wants to start. I've only worn them 4 times.
But the thing is, because I think people have all these ideas of you, and except, of course, your regular listeners, I think get to see the heart and soul of you. But there's like a notion that possibly that you're an old-fashioned guy with, you know, women belong in the kitchen, and yet...
Absolutely not.
And yet, if you look at your relationship with Jackie, which is reminiscent of the relationship that I had with Hughesy, who's also similarly interpreted as being a guy, yet we have the most substantial relationships as broadcasters, the most equitable.
I agree. And it was important for me from the start with Jackie, that because she was Jackie O. I was some kid that had grown up in Mackay and all these places, and then all of a sudden, you'll be on air with Jackie O on Monday. And I was like, Jesus. And I said to the guy, I was in Brisbane at the time, and I said, oh, how do I get down there? And he said, well, you figure it out yourself. And I thought, oh, shit, I've spent all my money on Bond on a place I can't afford. I had no money, had no nothing, drove to Sydney, went on with her. And when I finally got given the job, they said, oh, you know, I was like, oh, how much am I going to get for this job? And I think I was on 50 grand or something at Triple M in Brisbane. Hate rock music, by the way. So I was like, yes, I'm such a pop slut. I love Britney. I love all these things. And I was so excited to work with Jackie. And then they said, oh, you're going to get $250,000 a year. And I was like, to me, that was like a prince of Dubai wouldn't have that much money. And I told Jackie, oh, I got the job. I'm getting $250,000. I was so excited as a young guy. And she's like, oh, yeah, good. That's what they were paying Phil. And I said, oh, so... Because Jackie and Phil were married in the background for years. They never told me, because you can't be yourself on radio back then. And she goes, oh, no. And I said, you guys were getting $500,000 between you. And she said, no, I'm on 80,000. And I thought, you're Jackie O. How are you on 80,000? So.
And how was she?
She was fine. She didn't give a shit. Back then, that was just the way it was. But it really ate me up, and I thought, I looked at her as such a beacon of where I wanted to be, that I just couldn't believe that there was such a huge difference in cash for the same job that she'd already been doing for like 7 years. So I went to our general manager, who was female at the time, and I just said, oh, you know, I want to take a salary reduction so we're both paid the same money. I just couldn't go in there with that mentality, and the general manager looked up at me as if never heard this before. And I said, like, seriously, I don't feel comfortable with that, because she's Jackie O, and I just couldn't compute it in my head. And I've told Jackie knows all about this. Anyway, they didn't reduce my money, but they did up her salary, and that's something she's never forgotten. We talked about it over the years, usually like a few joints, and she's on the fucking wines.
And the cheese.
Yeah, oh, she loves cheese.
She
You
loves
can tell
cheese.
that's why she's on the WW ads. Poor thing. And I said, I know what you've done. You've slowly lost weight so you can get another year out of it. She's very smart. She's very smart.
When are you joining WW?
Well,
by
no,
the
I'm waiting
way?
for Jenny to call. But we've talked about it, and Jackie came to the conclusion that, like, this is deep, drunk Jackie, right? She's like, because my mum was like a beaten housewife and Dad was a grog monster, and we ended up running away, and just 13 primary schools, didn't really learn much. And if I see a woman cry, I go, just start crying, like something's wrong with me. So Jackie's figured out that I'm softer with women than I make out I am, because I watched my mum sort of suffer. So there I couldn't do the thing with Jackie where we weren't equal. Because like I've always believed everyone's equal. No matter, well, fat people, like we're still laughed at, but black people, gay people, trans people, they're all people, and I've always believed this. So I've wanted people to be their authentic self on the air way before it was cool. So it's weird to me that 20 years later, I can still pick up the newspaper and read a completely fabricated story about me hating handicapped people, and I'm a trans hater. And I'm like, I used to think if you read it or you saw it on the news that it was the truth. But in this industry, you slowly realise, everyone's got their own little agenda here, and I still sometimes find it hard to not compute as to, like, what am I really doing wrong? I might say cunt every now and then, but that's always deserved.
Right. Are you talking about our bosses?
Yeah, and there's another strange thing, and I do argue with the bosses every now and then. I don't think it's arguments, it's more I challenge their way of thinking. But normally, and it's always done respectfully, like I go on the air and, there's people at work here, and they're genuine annoyances. But anything that was really, like, it's usually nameless, like, this department, that, and it's usually something's gone wrong. And it happens in every workplace. I think except for the advertising agencies, because everyone's too terrified of the creative's going to come flying out with the crazy hair. My script. So everyone wants to be working with people that have got all their ducks in a row, put a big effort into their...
And that people are alive in what they do.
Exactly.
And not just doing it by rote.
Yeah, and I did think coming to Sydney, everyone's going to be at the top of their game. And then the same general manager, Kathy O'Connor, who runs OO now, great operator, haven't spoken to her for 15 years, but she's awesome. She sat me down one day and said, I know you want everyone to be so into radio and always the best and never make a mistake, but some people aren't going to be into it. Some people are just 9-to-5ers. And I thought, get rid of them. Let them fucking work somewhere else. And she used to laugh, and I'd sit there eating the choc buds out of her thing and try and debate with her.
Out of her thing?
And she, no, not out of her thing.
Wow.
Kate.
I don't know. I don't know how you roll.
No, I don't roll like that. Well, no, I do roll like that. But we used to have really good chats where I would also challenge her. And I was like, so you want me to dull my vibe and this greatness I'm striving for because someone in some other department, they're just a 9-to-5er.
Okay,
I couldn't understand it.
Speaking about that advertising angle, which I think will be of interest to the audience, how do you mesh those things together? Like, obviously there's a commercial sensibility in what we do, or we can't do it.
Yep.
But how do you mesh that with the integrity of the show and what you want to do on the show creatively?
Yep. Well, if someone just books a run of commercials, that's easy. I just hit the button when it's commercial time. That's fine.
And also you do hit your own buttons.
I do.
Which is unusual, and Timmy Blackwell is here today.
Oh, where's Timmy? Another panel operator, another genius.
Yes. And that's a very rare thing in our business, is that people who do the show who like to ride their own panels.
Yeah.
And you're one of those.
Well, I like to, because when Jackie and I talk, we have like a music bed underneath us. But I like, if something dramatic happens, I just turn it down. It's not rocket science. It just makes for more dramatic, like the old theatre that radio used to be. So I'm using all these people. I look at our show like an episode of Seinfeld. So there's a George, there's a Kramer. Like everyone is like an exaggerated version of their true self. No one's really playing a character. I used to love the old radio days where they'd have the Indian, I'm the Guru Swami, there's all these crazy, weird characters on. I loved that. And when I get to Sydney, Jackie's like, that's so fucking naff, we're not doing that. And I'd be like, oh, well, there goes all my character voices I've been developing. They were all pretty lame. They weren't. And the only good one was, hey, I'm Kermit the Frog. And that was already taken by
someone had thought of
the
that
Henson
already.
family. Yes, so they
right.
weren't keen on sharing it.
And so with advertisers then, how does that integration work?
I'll use one example. Like a sales rep that we've got came to us and said, I want spinalies pillows. And I thought, fuck, and how are we going to spin spinalies pillows out of Kris Jenner's chat? And then I met the guy that developed it, big client, stole all the money from 2GB. That was my thrill. And I rang Ben Fordham and said, you've lost another client. We're going after Garlo's Pies next. And we got them as well. I just wanted to rip all his clients. I like Ben, but we have a little bit of rivalry, which is fun. And the spinalies thing, I thought, okay, and because I got on board early with the rep, right, which doesn't happen very often, sales woman came up. She was from South Africa, and she was like, Kyle, I'm doing this, and she had all these ideas, and I thought, who's this from sales talking to me? You never see anyone usually.
No.
We're on different floors.
Yes, and different parts of the day.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, oh, God, look, she wants this money, and she was hungry for the money, and that sort of got me excited. And I thought, oh, this is not just someone just putting through a booking. They want to do something extra for the client. What can you do? And I thought, I could have a pillow, or I could sleep on it. I'm giving you a pillow, I'm doing this, I'm getting a mattress, you loaded it all. I got involved with the client from the beginning, and then now all of a sudden, we've got this fake Colleen character who's a guy voicing this woman from South Africa, who's the salesperson, who's obsessed with this client, and she comes on and does remixes of songs using the Spinalies pillow. Spinalies, pillow.
Which is also an old-fashioned kind of thing.
Sorry.
Sorry,
yes.
but we were. We get it. Don't put us to sleep with this Spinalies talk.
But getting involved early, and if we do any integration, it's usually got to be quite a spend, but you ask for a lot, you get even more. Like we make sure that any big clients that are integrated especially, because I want the campaigns to work. I sometimes read live ads and then I go, I'm not reading this, because I go to read it and I think, I don't know what I'm selling. And I'm reading it. If I don't know what I'm selling, and it's gone through the copyright, it's been through the agency, it's been through the client, and I was like, how the fuck can you not know what I'm selling? So I'll push back, and rather than just reading it and letting it go to air and the campaign being a failure, I actually want, and it's important for me, that the campaigns, whether they're scheduled ads or integrated campaigns or show sponsorships, I want them to work because I want the money to come back.
Of course.
This is how I make all the money.
But I think sometimes when there's star power involved, that sometimes the people who are working in other departments that we need to work are sometimes a bit intimidated to approach, or they're scared to suggest something. So there's quite a disconnect. How do you encourage them to come to you? Well,
when we first left the other station and then moved to KISS, mixed then, but then it turned into KISS, that was my whole plan. It felt like a big regional radio station. Like everyone still went out on the drinks with each other, and there was staff drinks on Friday. I think these things are important to keep everyone alive. And then when some people start running short on budget, there's no staff drinks this month. And that sort of interconnectivity erodes away. And then COVID came, and then people were working from home, and then the offices are empty, and the communication was all email, and then you just never saw anyone. So we were still going to work as essential workers. Couldn't you believe it? I couldn't believe we're us and Ambos with the essential workers.
Dr. Sandilands.
Yes. Oh, yes. Thank you for looking after that on the project that night. But it's one of those things where then when the clients all came back, and I thought to myself, during those COVID lockdowns, we should stop doing the radio surveys because there's no one on the road. Like kids aren't going to school. Why are we paying all this money to survey? And we didn't. I think they stopped for 3 months, and they came back, and I thought, these are going to be the worst ratings ever. And they weren't. They were still all there. And last survey, Jackie and I, and this is after 20 years.
How many are you number one now?
How many?
How many?
How many years?
No, how many surveys?
Oh, I don't know. I don't keep count. I just
who
assume
in
every
the room
survey.
knows?
No one. I assume every survey should be number one FM. And I know that there's a big bit of divisiveness coming from the AM stations that there's only one number one, and that's the AM. And I was like, well, we've got 250,000 more listeners a week than you guys do.
Sure.
So I'm sorry, your
And we
fucking
don't have
calculator
rusty
batteries are flat.
dials.
No, that's right.
We got no rust.
And our people are on the move. They're buying petrol, they're buying fridges, they're buying houses, they're buying new cars, they're going grocery shopping, they're going on holidays. They're ringing up Harvey World Travel, which I only just found out was Hello World Travel now.
Oh, hello.
Does anyone know that? Hello World Travel. I was singing the wrong song. There, but I like that. So I brought that up on the radio. We're not getting paid by Hello World Travel, but I brought it up. Said everyone should know it's not Harvey anymore. It's Hello World Travel.
So what you were saying before...
Write that shit down.
Yeah, write it down. Save it for your next book. By the way, did you write this book? You didn't,
I
did
sat
you?
there smoking weed, and Bruno, who's up the back
Your
there, he
manager.
typed it out on his iPhone.
Did he?
Yeah.
On the iPhone? You
I
didn't
know.
even
It's
give
like
him a keypad.
No, it's his thing.
So
it's a French thing.
You know how you were talking about the importance really of the social aspect of work because it nourishes everything.
Well, I think it also comes out on the air.
Yes.
So a lot of people, we have a lot of listeners in the cars, like in the morning, I know between 5:30 and 7, it's mainly tradies. So we're filthy. We play funny innuendo-y games, not real filth. Sure, we've had prostitutes on every now and then, just talking about, hey, what's it like to be a prostitute? And those, you've got 3 Tongans in the front of a Daihatsu ute, freezing cold, going, hey, bro, they've got the bloody prostitute on. They love it. So I'm catering for who's listening. 7:30 to 8:30.
But for school drop-off,
Yes.
people
same shit.
don't want that, do they?
Who cares what the fuck they want?
Oh, you just said you're catering for the people that are listening.
Yeah,
now
but-
you're changing your story.
No, I'm catering for the mums that listen. If they don't want the kids to hear this, we are a little bit softer because Jack is a bit of a handbrake.
Yes.
So I think the producers schedule certain things depending on who they perceive as listening, but anything can happen at any time. And every single day, someone will say to me, oh, I love you, but sometimes I've got to, the kids. She goes, no, race to school, get out. Turn it back up again.
So they can hear it.
I like that. But I want people to want more. I want them, but we even started at that Hot 30. It was my aim for every teenager in Australia to listen and the parents to hate me like I was the devil. Because what do kids want? What mum doesn't want you to do. People would listen in bed at night quietly. The parents didn't want to hear.
Yeah.
We were doing all sorts of crazy things.
All right, but now, Carl Sandilands.
Same thing.
You are a parent.
I know.
Now, what do you
I thought my
want?
sperm wasn't working, and then I found
Well,
out it was.
Are you sure? Are you sure it's yours?
Yes.
Okay, good.
He's got
good.
this same weird little grin and this same hideous, Addams Family vibe in the hair.
What do you want when Otto's older? What do you want for him to hear on the radio?
Oh, I could care less.
Do
I'll
you
be dead
think-
by then when he's old.
Do you think, because you have so far defied the logic, and Joe Dick was saying before the myths of the decline of radio.
Well, look, for years we've thought, like, even when the cassette came out, we thought, well, that's the end of radio. People are going to listen to the cassette. Didn't happen. Then the CD came out, and we were all like, I was there through all, you would have been. Oh, the CD's out. No one's going to listen to radio. Still grew.
Joel Creasy was there when they had the gramophone.
Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was around the iPad Mini is when he was born. But all these things, the iPod Mini, the MP3 players, every time we, as the performers, were told by, we've got competition. Then the internet started. Wow, that was a whole different ballgame. Then streaming services. Everyone was stealing the music off those line wires, and then Apple Music was like, everyone's going to pay. And we were all like, bullshit, we're not going to pay for nothing. That went for a while. Now there's all the streaming services, radio there. And a lot of people even think like TikTok, all the social media platforms, they're great tools to have. People are fully into them. But there was this myth going around also for like TikTok that all new music was being broken from TikTok. And 75% of new music is still broken through commercial radio. So worldwide, that's just the facts. TikTok's great. These kids, they're just dancing, and it's the worst choreography. Have you seen these kids? They're like, what's up?
It's really hard.
I'm like, that is like rehearsal.
Actually, that reminds me of your vaccination
Straight arms.
ad.
Straight
It was
arms.
like your vax ad.
That vax ad.
The vax ad.
Yeah. I don't know why I fucking did that. And then it was
No.
getting by. And then everyone's sitting in the I heard people going down to the Olympic Park and they've got big screens of me dressed up. Get vaxxed, baby. And over and over. And I said, how long are they there for? And they're like, some people are there for a few hours. And I was like, listening to that shit over and over.
That's the power.
I thought I had got the government. I said, you've got to take that down. I'm going to get burnt. I'm going to burn. They're going to hate me after a while. Anyway, that was all bullshit after all that. We got all that government money, though, for the radio ads. It was like it was election all over again.
Well, there you go. Where would we be without the government money?
I know. Well, I'd be all right. I'd know where you'd be.
I'm not. I don't think I'm big on the government teat, to be honest.
No, you're not?
No, I'm not.
Oh, my God. During the COVID, Kate decided 2 weeks before COVID broke out to take her whole family to live in Italy for the best life ever.
It was a year before. But
Was it?
Yeah, I don't expect you to be interested in
I don't
our
know facts.
lives. No,
I
you
do.
don't know
I
facts.
was following. I actually felt for you and the whole family.
Well,
Locked
you
up
know
in that
what? It was
flat.
the greatest thing we ever did.
Really?
Yeah.
Locked up in that flat?
Well, not necessarily that part, but the whole experience of it was the greatest thing we ever did, which I believe that sometimes when you're in circumstances that stretch you and that are deeply uncomfortable, like me in a yoga class, that on the other side of that is where the benefit is.
Right. Well,
Don't you think?
No, I don't know. Well, I've never
I know
done
you
anything
look like
brave.
someone who craves comfort,
I do.
but you say you've never done anything uncomfortable, and yet you kind of do that every day.
Well, it's just my reel. It's not like people. I think people, even my manager's wife, who produces another network's show, she's like, "Oh, what a coincidence! Kyle's plane crashed, but he survived. Oh, what a coincidence!
Right.
Like these are nothing's staged ever. There's no planned stunts. None of these things that happen are organised. None. I don't like that sort of radio. I don't like where they plan. Let's pretend this happened and let's do this. And then this person says that. This isn't a theatre show.
All right, then riddle me this. Because your success is indisputable, and because this is your ethos of how you and Jackie operate,
Yep.
that it's organic and it's real, obviously there's planning. Why do you think that in the broader industry there's a tendency to pull the opposite way, which is everything's staged, everything's scripted, everything's pretend,
I'm not
everything's
sure.
vanilla?
Well,
Why
I'm not-
then
it-
don't
it-
people go, we need more of this?
Well, it hasn't been easy because I battle against the programmers. Like, it's Duncan Campbell, where we are now, and DB. DB's worked with me
Yes.
since he was 18.
Love
I
DB.
taught him since he was a little bit of plasticine. I squeezed
Right.
him into the program where he is.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, it says here in this book, like a phone book from the 1970s, everything you say is good. If the weather's raining, spin a positive thing for the farmers. So you'd be like, it's raining
Okay.
outside, but what a wonderful day for the farmers. And I just thought, that's
Right.
fucking bullshit. I don't feel like that. I sometimes even say, I back announce a song and go, well, what a shit song that is.
Right.
We won't be playing that again. And the music director will run over and get on the mic and go, oh, it's actually the number one song in Europe. And I go, so what? We're never playing it again. It's just what I feel. It's just what I feel. It's whatever mood I'm in at the day. Somehow it's worked. I don't really have any other skills. I'm very good at arguing back and not really caring about that much. I do care about certain things. I don't ever like to hurt people or to
Yes.
see people suffer in any way. But I am down for a laugh.
You're
and
fully
at
down for a
anyone's
laugh.
expense.
And another thing I've noticed about, I don't know how long we've got. Someone said there's a
We've
clock.
got all day, right?
Oh, we've run out of time. Okay.
What the fuck's this flashing zero?
Well, you should have been on
Hang
to
on,
that.
hang on. I haven't
Hang
even
on.
done my little stories.
Hang on, what little stories?
Is
I've
this a
got
real thing, this zero?
Are we on zero? We've
Who
done.
else is on after
okay,
us?
hang on. If it's going to be
Who's
more
on
stats-
after us?
What? Oh, okay.
Abby Chatfield. Fuck, that's
Kyle
worth hearing.
Sandilands.
That's whatever Abby's got. That is
Let
definitely.
me read you this
I wonder if
from
she's bringing any of
your
those products.
partner in crime,
Huh? Jackie?
Jackie.
Did she text you?
Yes. So, this is a message from her for you.
Oh,
Hey,
gosh.
Kyle. Sorry I was sick and left you in the lurch this morning. Doesn't it suck when the other person is sick?
And in all fairness, some of those sick days have been coke benders.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, you want honesty?
Just wanted to say how much I love you. We may not have won the 160 million this week, but I feel like I already won the lotto when I met you.
Oh, she's on there.
Quite,
Sure.
quite literally. Without you, I probably wouldn't be able to buy all those fancy stinky cheeses you hate so much.
Oh, she is definitely on the plonk. Listen to this, is a real...
You seriously make my life so much fun each day. Doesn't matter what shit we're going through personally, everything feels so much better when we turn on those mics and make each other laugh, and no amount of money can buy that. Couldn't imagine life without you. Have fun today. Love you. P.S.
Well, how come I didn't get that text?
P.S. Why wasn't I invited? Because she's a woman...
God, how much equality does she want? Sometimes you got to do something on your own.
Kyle Sandilands.
Hang on. I just wanted to tell... Someone told me this quick little story. I'm sorry, stop flashing these fucking zeros. I'm not a fan of being wound up.
I told you he rides the panel.
So, that we just bought this regional network, that ARN did. And so we got this station that was down in Ballarat. And this is just a powerful story for radio, just for ages of people to know. When the bushfires were going on down in southern New South Wales, all the Telstra services were burnt out, everything, all communication was gone. People were listening to the radio. The radio announcers were on there telling them, don't go down this road, it's all burnt out, everyone should go out this way. Very powerful. I've been through like 8 cyclones throughout Queensland where people think that they're going to die and they're listening to the radio for all what's going on, what's flooding, weather conditions. But this very personal story for me from the homeless days. Power FM in Ballarat, there was a Stockland shopping centre down there, and the general manager of Stockland realised that there was a family, a mum and her 3 kids, living in the car in the supermarket. And he rang the radio station and said, they can't live here forever, but I'm not going to send them away. Is there anything that you guys at the radio station can do? And within 2 hours, the community on the radio got on air and said that we've got a struggling family. Didn't say, oh, they're down in Stockland, go and have a looky-loo, but told them their situation. The mum had escaped from a domestic violence situation in Queensland, driven to Ballarat, was shoveled in the back of this car with her kids, no money, no idea what to do. And within 2 hours, the radio station had accommodated them. They had money in their bank, new clothes, set up the woman's job, got the kids into a school, changed that family's life. And radio is that intimate that that's what we do. That's something Spotify can't do, newspapers can't, TV. We love all these things. Don't get me wrong, I'm all over all of them. But something very personal about radio, and when people drive to work or home from work or they're at night, their radio is their friend. So they do hear the ads. Like I only know there's a fucking Harvey Norman special because, g'day, it's Jerry Harvey. And here's Jerry.
Hello, travel.
Exactly. That's hello, travel. But radio is intimate. We're in people's lives, their bedrooms, their cars, some of their best and worst moments of their life. And it's a powerful medium. My girlfriend, or fiance, pardon me, was in the advertising agency business 10 years ago, mind you. And she said, oh, radio, when I first met, fucking radio, fucking love that. She goes, it's the last on the budget. If there's $4 left over, we throw it to radio. And I was like, wow, we're worse than a pamphlet drop. Like, and since knowing me and seeing and being with me wherever we go and the people that come up, she's like, this is ridiculous. She goes, radio's way more powerful than she ever gave credit for.
Because of the intimacy.
Yeah, and I said,
of
well,
it.
fucking get back to the industry and let them all know. And then I realised maybe we haven't done our job letting people know the power of radio and the success, the constant success and the growing numbers. And for 20 years later, for Jackie and I to have our highest ratings of the history of any show in Australia now or any other time, 20 years later, like, I'm glad that people like it, but are you putting the lights down?
You've got to wind up.
I
You've got to
felt-
wind up. Someone's got statistics and they need to get
Oh,
them to
no
you.
one gave a fuck about those statistics.
Yeah, but they
Soz,
still...
but really, no. Send a fucking email with that rubbish. But radio is powerful. Just put us up the priority list a bit, right? Just above Foxtel or whatever else is at the bottom of the priority list. But it's worth it, and we do make differences. So thank you very much.
Talent always wins.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have been fired a few times, so we haven't always.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't always win.
Yeah.
Do you want me to sign that book for you?
No, it's already signed. It's already signed.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time. Sorry we went over, and sorry, Abby, but whatever.
Is Abby really here?
I don't know. No, I can't tell.
Everybody, please thank legend. I think you can see why.
And
Kyle
Kate. And
Sandilands.
Kate. Oh.